You think space is empty. You imagine it as a flat, invisible stage where the universe just happens. You picture planets moving along invisible lines, stars fixed in some static backdrop. You imagine gravity as a simple force, pulling objects across nothingness, but that's wrong. Gravity isn't a force pulling. Space isn't empty. Space bends, folds, stretches, and breathes, whether you notice it or not. You've been imagining a stage where there is none. You've been thinking linearly in a world that refuses line. Every step you take, every orbit you trace, every beam of light you follow, your intuition insists on simplicity. And yet, the universe laughs at that simplicity. It curves. It curves in ways you can't touch, can't see, can't even fully grasp. The stage is gone. The floor beneath your feet is no longer solid. Even the direction you thought down existed in is questionable. And the first person to make sense of this, the first to see the bending where you imagined flatness, was Einstein. But even he could only describe it. He could never make you feel it. You've been walking through the universe thinking you know the ground beneath your feet. You imagine space as a simple, invisible, grid-neutral arena where things happen. You picture stars fixed on some distant canvas, planets tracing invisible circles, and comets cutting straight lines through the void. You think motion occurs because objects push or pull, not because space itself has a say. This is wrong. Try this thought experiment. Imagine a ball rolling across a perfectly flat plane. You expect it to keep moving straight unless something stops it. That's your intuition talking. That's Newton's world talking. In your mind, space is an empty, featureless expanse, a stage that allows matter to act without interference. But remove the idea of a stage for a moment. Remove the imagined flatness. What remains is not emptiness, it's possibility. Space is not a passive backdrop. It is a participant. Now imagine drawing two parallel lines on a sheet of paper. You are certain they will never meet. You are confident in that. You imagine space itself as this sheet flat, predictable, unyielding. But Einstein asked, what happens if that sheet isn't flat? What if the lines converge or diverge? What if the empty space you thought you understood has curvature woven into its very fabric? Suddenly your confidence falters. That simple intuition of flatness collapses. Even more unsettling, the planets you've been imagining, rolling along invisible tracks, are not moving through nothing. They are gliding along curves you cannot see, guided by the bending of space itself. You can feel the urge to assign force to explain motion, but that urge misleads you. The reason planets orbit the sun isn't because they are being pulled. It's because space has curved beneath them, and they are following the natural paths dictated by that curvature. You think you understand motion. You think space is passive. But every instinct that tells you empty space is simple is wrong. The universe has geometry before you even place a single object in it. And that geometry dictates how matter moves, how light bends, how time flows. Even imagining a completely empty universe doesn't help. Remove all stars, all planets, all matter, and space is still not flat. There is still shape. There is still curvature. The emptiness you trusted is deceptive. Your intuition, so confident and clear, cannot touch this reality. And here's the disquieting part. You have lived your entire life surrounded by this flatness illusion, unaware. You have walked across curved terrain without ever feeling the curve. You have followed paths that are dictated by the bending of space itself. Yet you remain convinced that space is featureless, flat, and irrelevant. This is the first lesson. The universe is not a stage. It is not passive. It is curved. And until you accept that, every motion, every orbit, every beam of light will seem like magic or worse. A simple force acting across nothing. You've been told that gravity pulls. You imagine it as an invisible hand, tugging objects downward, holding the Earth's oceans in place, keeping the moon in orbit. You think of apples falling, planets circling, tides rising, all as a simple consequence of a mysterious force. That is wrong. Imagine an elevator closed off from the world. You stand inside, feeling the floor beneath your feet. The elevator accelerates upward. You feel heavier, pressed against the floor. You know that sensation. You call it gravity. Now imagine the elevator cable snaps. You fall. Your stomach lurches. You float, weightless. There is no floor, no tugging force. Yet the apple in your hand still moves. The air around you shifts. The motion continues. In free fall, there is no gravity, at least, not in the way you imagine it. Einstein realized this. What you feel as gravity is not a force pulling at you. It is the shape of space guiding your motion. The elevator scenario is not just a clever trick. It is a window into reality. Objects move as if pulled, but in truth, they are following the natural curvature of space. There is no invisible hand. There is only geometry. Think about it. When planets orbit the sun, they don't know the sun is there. They don't respond to a mysterious tug. They move along paths dictated by the bending of space itself, which the sun creates. The orbit isn't caused by force. It is caused by shape. Your intuition screams that something must pull, that something must push. That scream is a mistake. It's a relic of living in a world where forces dominate at human scales. At cosmic scales, forces are illusions. Curvature is reality. Now take light. You think light moves straight because nothing acts on it. Yet starlight bends around the sun. How can a massless, intangible particle deflect without force? The answer is again not in the pull, not in the push, not in a field acting at a distance. It is in the warp. Space the sun inhabits. Light follows the curves laid out by geometry itself. What you call a path, it calls a line dictated by space. Gravity, as you understand it, is a misdirection. And it gets stranger. Your body, your motion, even your perception of down is part of this trick. The ground pushes, resisting the curvature beneath you, giving the illusion of pull. You feel weight. You mistake it for force. But remove the ground, remove the reference, and the illusion evaporates. Motion remains, but the force you trusted vanishes. This is the second lesson. Gravity is not a hand pulling. Gravity is space telling objects how to move. You are not being pulled, you are gliding along invisible curves. The universe doesn't tug, it guides. And that guidance is far subtler, far stranger than anything your senses can intuitively grasp. You might think curvature is a local phenomenon. You imagine space, bending only near massive objects, stars, planets, black holes. You picture most of the universe as flat, boring, uneventful. That is wrong. Einstein showed that curvature isn't confined to pockets around heavy masses. It is woven into the very fabric of space itself, stretching and twisting everywhere, subtly and visibly. Even where there is no star, no planet, no moon, the geometry of space has shape. It is not flat. Your intuition, trained on small scales, fails entirely. Try this thought experiment. Imagine a perfectly calm ocean. Now picture dropping a stone in one corner. Waves ripple outward. You might assume that only near the stone the water is disturbed. But the waves travel, interacting with the entire body of water. Space is the same. Even in empty regions, curvature exists. It is tiny, nearly imperceptible, yet absolute. Now imagine two beams of light, parallel, moving across interstellar voids. You think they will remain parallel forever. Einstein would tell you they do not. Space is subtly curved. And these beams converge or diverge as they traverse it. There is no mass nearby. There is no force acting. There is only geometry, stretching and bending silently across the cosmos. This subtle curvature accumulates. Across billions of light years, the flat assumption collapses entirely. The paths of galaxies, the expansion of the universe, even the flow of time in distant regions, all are influenced by the invisible bends of space. You can measure them in gravitational lensing, in cosmic microwave background patterns, in the shifts of distant light. What seemed empty is structured. What seemed passive is active. Even more disorienting, Curvature doesn't just warp space, it warps the connection between space and time. A distant star whose light you see today is not simply there in the way you imagine. Its light has followed curved paths through a curved medium shaped by a curvature that extends far beyond what you would instinctively call near. Space and time are intertwined. Their curvature inescapable, global, and subtle. Here's the unsettling truth. The universe does not consist of isolated islands of curvature around massive objects. Curvature is everywhere. Even the void you trust is not empty. Even the space between stars, between galaxies, between clusters carries the imprint of geometry. Every motion, every beam of light, every clock ticking in the void is following these silent curves. Your intuition says most of space is flat. That intuition is wrong. Curvature is universal. It is omnipresent. The universe is a continuous tapestry of bending, stretching, and shaping everywhere you think there is. Nothing. There is structure, guiding motion, dictating paths, reshaping the flow of reality itself. This is the third lesson. Space is never empty. It is never simple. Its curvature is everywhere, subtle and pervasive, beyond your senses, beyond your assumption. Shaping the universe silently but relentlessly. You imagine time as universal. You think it flows evenly, ticking the same for everyone, everywhere. Your intuition says now is the same moment across the universe. That is wrong. Einstein revealed something that shakes the foundations of perception. Time is not separate from space. Time stretches, compresses, and bends depending on motion and gravity. It is as malleable as the paths of planets as the trajectories of light. What you think of as a second is local, subjective, and shaped by the curvature of the cosmos. Imagine two identical clocks. One rests at the bottom of a mountain. The other is carried to the summit. You might assume they tick in perfect synchrony. You expect no difference. Yet, even this small difference in gravity stretches time. The clock higher up, farther from Earth's gravitational curvature, ticks slightly faster. A tiny, almost imperceptible discrepancy, yet real. Time is not uniform. Gravity shapes it just as it shapes space. Now imagine traveling at near light speed. You depart Earth for a distant star. Years pass on the ship. Decades pass on Earth. Your clock and theirs no longer match. The flow of time is relative. Your intuition screams at you, time is the same for everyone. That scream is incorrect. Time bends, stretches, and yields to the geometry of space. Even more unsettling, your perception of simultaneity is an illusion. Events that seem simultaneous to you may not be simultaneous to someone else. Moving relative to you. There is no universal now. The universe has no single present. It is a landscape of events, each connected by curved space and stretched time, with no absolute order that your human intuition can grasp. Consider light again. A photon leaving a distant galaxy does not experience time in the way you think. For the photon, its journey is instantaneous, yet for you, billions of years pass. Time is not universal. It is entwined with motion, with curvature, with the shape of the universe itself. This is the fourth lesson. Time is not what you think. It is not uniform. It is not separate. It is not absolute. Like space, it bends and flows. Like space, it shapes motion, perception, and reality. Your trust in a universal clock, your reliance on a steady now, is a cognitive trap. The universe has no single heartbeat, only the continuous, malleable rhythm of space-time, guiding all motion, all light, all existence. You think light moves straight. You imagine it travels in perfect lines, unaffected by anything unless it hits matter. You picture it as a passive messenger, obeying simple rules, ignoring the shape of the universe. That is wrong. Light does not move straight. Light moves along the curves dictated by space itself. It follows the geometry. The sun, massive and unyielding, bends space around it. Starlight, traveling billions of kilometers, does not cut a straight path, it arcs, deflects, bends, revealing the hidden contours of space-time. You see the star where it isn't. The universe has tricked your senses. Imagine a distant galaxy sending a beam of light toward Earth. You expect a straight line. In reality, the beam weaves around invisible hills and valleys of space shaped by mass you cannot see, by curvature you cannot feel. Every bend is a signal, every arc a footprint of unseen geometry. Light is not merely illuminating matter, it is tracing the structure of space itself. Now imagine a thought experiment, a laser in a room pointed perfectly straight. You might think it will never deviate. But replace that room with the void between two massive objects, a star here, a black hole there, and the beam curves subtly. There is no force pulling it sideways. It does not collide with an unseen hand. It follows the natural line of curved space-time. Light obeys shape, not force. Even stranger, gravitational lensing. Distant galaxies appear doubled, stretched, magnified, distorted. All because their light traces the curves of space around invisible masses. Your eyes, your telescopes, even your instruments, all are deceived. The light is telling a story that matter alone cannot reveal. The universe has contours, twists, and bends beyond intuition, and only the path of light exposes them. And consider this, light experiences no time. Its journey, guided entirely by curvature, is instantaneous from its own perspective. Yet it illuminates paths shaped by space-time, revealing the structure of a cosmos that has no universal now. Light is the ultimate guide. It moves along curves you cannot feel, along bends you cannot see, revealing the architecture of the universe in its silent passage. This is the fifth lesson. Follow light, and you follow the shape of reality. Matter may mislead. Forces may deceive. Intuition may betray you. But light moves along the curves, tracing the geometry that governs everything. It is the universe's handwriting, written not on paper, but in the folds of space itself. You might think these curves are abstract curiosities, irrelevant to your daily life. You imagine that warped space is only important near black holes or distant galaxies. That is wrong. Curvature affects everything even here on Earth. Take GPS satellites, for example. You rely on them to navigate, to find directions, to locate your phone with centimeter precision. You assume they just send signals, unaffected by gravity. Yet those satellites orbit above Earth, where gravity is weaker, where time ticks slightly faster. Their clocks drift relative to yours. If engineers ignored the curvature of space-time, your navigation would fail catastrophically. The world you trust would misalign, and the route you take would no longer match reality. A space, bending imperceptibly, dictates your path. Or consider black holes, not just as cosmic oddities, but as extreme examples of curvature. Space collapses around them, time slows, light bends and orbits, matter stretches into streams invisible to the eye. Your intuition screams, how can something invisible have such power? It can, because curvature is real, and your senses are insufficient to measure it directly. These are consequences of geometry, not of force. Gravity, as you imagine it, is useless here. Only the curves themselves matter. Even the light from distant galaxies reveals curvature on scales unimaginable. Gravitational lensing doesn't just distort images, it uncovers unseen mass, exposes dark matter, maps the universe's invisible scaffolding. You might imagine this is esoteric, irrelevant, disconnected from daily life. Yet the same principle governs the simplest motion, the path of a thrown ball, the orbit of a satellite, the timing of signals that keep your world connected. Curvature is subtle, but it underpins every interaction, every calculation, every measurement. Now, take a moment to reflect. The paths you've traced, the motions you take for granted, the straight lines you imagine are guided silently, invisibly, by the universe's shape. Even when you do not see it, even when nothing pulls, even when intuition insists on simplicity, reality obeys curves, bends, and folds. You navigate a universe whose geometry is hidden yet unavoidable. This is the sixth lesson. Curvature is not abstract. It is practical. It is unavoidable. It shapes technology, observation, motion, and time itself. The stage you imagined is gone. What remains is a living geometry, pervasive and precise, dictating outcomes whether you perceive it or not. Ignoring it is not ignorance, it is failure. To exist accurately in the world that truly surrounds you. You might close your eyes and imagine the universe as a calm, silent expanse, a simple stage on which stars, planets, and galaxies perform their motions. That image is comforting, but it is false. Space is alive with shape, invisible yet undeniable, sculpted to every motion, every beam of light, every tick of time. Curvature is the universe breathing, moving, and shaping reality itself. Imagine floating in the void between galaxies, weightless, surrounded by the faint glow of distant stars. There is no force you can feel. There is no hand you can see. Yet every path, every trajectory, every flicker of light obeys the hidden curves woven into space-time. You are immersed in a geometry more intricate than any human-made design, more precise than any machine, more subtle than any intuition. Even the cosmos itself, the galaxies, the clusters, the voids are threads in this fabric. You cannot see the curves directly. You cannot measure them with your senses. But they exist, guiding motion, shaping time, bending light, whispering the rules of existence. The universe is not a stage. It is a sculptor. It is a silent artist, carving paths, shaping events, stretching and folding reality in ways that defy your instincts. And here is the profound, unsettling part. Your perception of reality, the straight lines you follow, the seconds you count, the up and down you trust, is only valid because it roughly matches the curves of space around you. Step beyond those familiar bounds, and intuition collapses. You encounter paths that cannot be straight, durations that cannot be uniform, motions that cannot be explained by push or pull. The universe is stranger, richer, more elegant than you imagined. Einstein didn't just explain space and time. He revealed that the very scaffolding of reality, the stage you thought solid, is curved, alive, and infinite in its subtlety. He showed that the world you perceive is a projection, a simplification, a convenient illusion. Beneath it lies a universe of invisible architecture, guiding everything from the fall of an apple to the light of distant quasars, shaping existence with a geometry beyond comprehension. This is the final lesson. The cosmos is not a static stage, not a flat sheet, not a simple backdrop. It is a vast, intricate, curved expanse. And the awe it inspires is not in what you can see, but in what you cannot, the hidden curves that govern everything, silently, beautifully, inevitably.